how players would handle the pregame scenarios here, and this was our first sample. And as you can see, the Texans there, they broke the huddle. They ran off the field before Lift Every Voice and Sing, before the national anthem. The Chiefs, they stayed right there, as you can see, Alex Okafor kneeling. Then the Texans came back out of the locker room for a moment of unity there, a moment of silence to show unity among the team's NFL players, Americans. They're right there on the field at Arrowhead as they linked arms right before the game. And this was Bill O'Brien after the game.
No, I don't think that was the case. We met as a team. We met as a leadership group of about 20 players. We met 3 or 4 times, and without getting into the details of those meetings, the players decided that they wanted to make sure that people understood. And you can ask the players, and they'll articulate it better than me. But it's really not about the flag. It's about making sure that that people understand that Black lives do matter, and that there is a systemic racism problem in this country. And so that's what our players decided to do as a team. That was something that we spoke about twice. And as a team, they decided to do. It wasn't anything where guys couldn't agree or anything like that. I think what I would say is, Brian, that guys wanted to be very respectful of each other. Guys wanted to make sure that they respected each other's opinions. I think this was not a good night relative to the game, obviously, but feel very good about this team and our ability to come together. And we got to improve very quickly. We got a Ravens team coming in here, but this team is very together. I believe that the players would tell you that, and that's what they chose to do.
So a unified front there for the Texans, as we heard from Bill O'Brien. We bring in Jim Trotter. And Jim, what are you hearing? What's the reaction to how this was handled by the Texans tonight?
Colleen, there really wasn't much surprise about how it was handled. Look, the reality is, as much as everyone may want an end to systemic racism and police brutality against people of color, people have different feelings on how to go about making that change. And a locker room and a league, meaning all of the players, they're not monolithic. And people have different feelings. And I think what you saw tonight is one team that said the best way to have its voice heard was by not being on the field during the anthem. And you had another that said the best way to make its voice heard was by being there. And I think that's the way it's going to be all season, at least in terms of players and teams that I talk to.
I do find it really interesting as players and teams try and sort of figure out what the best way to handle this is, because it is obviously a very sensitive topic. And, we heard from Bill O'Brien there talking about how the Texans players, for them, it was all about respecting each other. And we saw the moving video that the Dolphins players and head coach Brian Flores put out there in terms of what they're going to do, their plan for Sunday. What have you been hearing about that video and the reaction from what was going on there with Miami?
Yeah, several players I talked to tonight said it was a powerful video, no question. In terms of the script, in terms of how it was shot. But what I also heard, they were curious as to who the Dolphins players were trying to call out in that video. Was it the league they were trying to call out, or was it their owner they were trying to call out? Because remember, Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, as much as he has done, he's the only owner in the league who has a black general manager, a black head coach, a black communications director. He founded the RISE Initiative, the Ross Initiative of Sports and Equity. But at the same time, he is also someone who holds fundraisers for Donald Trump, who is one of the most divisive figures in this country, if not the most divisive figure at this point. And so what I hear from players is, who were they calling out there? And that's something that the Dolphins players, the organization, is going to have to answer probably beginning tomorrow, because I assume there will be a lot of questions about it.
A lot of questions there for sure. We have a lot of questions about what else is going to happen come Sunday, come Monday. What is your feeling about how things will be handled throughout the rest of the league?
Colleen, I think you're going to see a lot of what you saw tonight. Different teams will do different things. The thing that's interesting to me, though, is that there are players who say the league has done a 180 too quickly here. And so they question the authenticity of it. Remember, for 3-4 years, we had the league trying to silence players from demonstrating. In 2018, they even voted to change the Anthem policy to keep players from demonstrating on the field. And now here we are in 2020 where we have the commissioner saying Black Lives Matter. There wouldn't be an NFL without black players. We have all of these promos. We have hashtags in the end zone, those sorts of things. And they question the authenticity of it. And so the league is going to have to deal with that. I can tell you this, in talking to players, they don't know what's going to happen on Sunday. A couple that I talked to tonight said one thing they do know is that that Dolphins video will be discussed in the locker room, and there will be questions about whether or not they, meaning their team, want to go forward with something like that, or will they do something else, or will they do nothing at all? We just don't know. It will be different for every team, for every individual. So at this point, I think it just bears that we have to wait and watch. The one thing I do know, I feel confident in saying, at least from the players that I've talked to, one thing we will not see is what we saw in the NBA, and that is players boycotting a game.
Well, that's good news for NFL fans that are excited to see the games. And Jim Trotter, thank you so much for bringing your perspective and your insight here to this subject, because it's a very powerful platform that these NFL players have, and how they use it is, it takes a lot of thoughtful conversations. I think a lot of moments of reckoning too. And James Jones, as we bring you back in here as well, what do you think that we'll end up seeing this weekend?
I think you're going to end up seeing a little bit of both. I talked to a couple players tonight, and they basically were just telling me that, through the league, through every Sunday, every Monday, whenever it comes, you're going to see a little bit of both. Teams have got their leadership groups together, and this is how they're going to handle it. But at the end of the day, they were saying they respect both teams' decisions, because the reason why we are out here trying to raise awareness is because of racism. It's because of the police brutality that's going on out there. So listen, I don't understand why we have to keep saying it's not about the flag, because everybody knows that it's not about the flag. But I truly support these dudes, because at the same time, they just showed the unity that we're not going to stand for one and go in the locker room for other one, or kneel for one and stand up for one, because it's not about white versus black. It's about all of us versus racism. It's about unity. So we don't want you to get the signal of, okay, yeah, we're going to stand for this one and not for that one, and let you know that, hey, all we care about is Black Lives Matter. No, we want to end racism. We want to get this thing right. We want everybody to be in this thing together, and it's about unity. And one thing that really struck me to the core, man, is that you get up here and you lock arms with both teams, and you have fans in the stadium booing. Mm-hmm. And then when the game starts, you're cheering on those same players that you were just booing. And for me, is if you're gonna boo, don't even come to the game, because don't boo and act like that, and then cheer for us to score touchdowns when the game comes, because it's bigger than touchdowns. It's bigger than Super Bowls. It's bigger than all that. I have 2 young kids, and it hurts that somebody out there hates them because of the color of their skin. And that is what we're trying to end. We're trying to end racism. We could care less about scoring a touchdown. We could care less about winning a Super Bowl. It's about ending racism. And that is what all the players are standing for. So fans to come watch us play, and then to boo when we standing for this, it's really disrespectful, and it's disgusting just to even hear that and see that go on.
Well said, James Jones, as we saw the players on the field in the moment of silence there for a sign of unity get booed during week 1. I mean, when they are out here, they're playing during a pandemic and they're getting booed by fans at home. Sometimes I can't understand a lot of things that we end up seeing, James. So thank you for being so honest and open about this subject. I think it's one that we've all continued to vacillate with and have some issues with talking with certain people about, but we will continue talking about it here on NFL Network Total Access, and we will talk about the Chiefs and their win and Patrick Mahomes coming up as well.